NFL analyst, does college football. One of my favorite guys, Danny Kanell, joining us sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. You know, I was saying about Travis Frederick is that everybody will look at that and say Andrew Luck and Calvin Johnson and Luke Kuechly and Travis Frederick, they retire, it's bad for football. And Danny, I look at it differently. I look at Danny Kanell and I think to myself, the football window of hitting should be 14 years old to 29, and unless you're a quarterback, you don't have to sign a third contract because you get so much money now. Once the football window is 12 years of hitting and not 28, and the league rules change, and there's less hitting, and there's less hitting at practice, I don't know. I look at Travis Frederick, and I'm like, this is good news for the NFL. The great player can walk out of here and not have to go into his 30s because he doesn't have the money. Your thoughts on it?
I agree with you. I think it is a good thing for the NFL. The fact that players are able to walk away earlier than they did before. You know, it's interesting because even when I was playing 15 or 20 years ago, almost every player that I played with had a number, right? I mean, they had a number in their head. Once I get to X amount, once it's $10 million, $15, $20 million, then I'm going to walk away. Look at the amounts of money these guys are able to make before they're 30. And I know it's hard for fans to grasp, and I'm not saying it's every player that's out there. I do think there are some guys that play for the love of the game, but there are a lot of players who play as a means to an end. Yeah. And once they reach that means, they can walk away. And like you said, they can do it before they face significant injuries and significant health risks long term. So I feel bad for guys because I do think guys out of this group, some of these guys you mentioned, like Luke Kuechly, I think he was a football, meathead type, not meathead, because he's very smart. But I think he's a guy who loves the game of football. I think Travis Frederick, same boat. I think these guys live and love the game of football, so I hate to see them have to walk away. But I love the fact that financially they're able to separate that and make an independent decision and say, you know what? I'll be fine financially for the rest of my life. Now I can make a smart, educated decision on what's the best thing for me and my family. And a lot of times we're finding out that that's sooner rather than later they're able to walk away. But I agree with you. The shorter window is better for the long-term health of the game.
Yeah, better imagery when these guys walk to the Hall of Fame podium, not wobbly and hobbling. They walk up there full of energy. They look like Howie Long, where they're robust and dynamic, and they're smiling and they're laughing. Or Jason Taylor, Joy's brother, they walk up and you're like, God, these guys look unbelievable. You don't want an old hobbly guy walking up to the podium, and it gives you sad imagery. Now, speaking of injuries, I think I'm not even going to give away my rant, which I have later on Tua, but I think you or I are in the same boat. I believe in sports and in life, aggressive wins. Smart helps, but it doesn't win. You can go to the best prep schools, but if you're passive or you're frightened of your own shadow, you're not going to really ever hit it out of the park. You got to be willing to move cross country. You got to be willing to take stabs at stuff. I would draft Tua. I would. Would you, give me kind of your summation of what you think he is, and would you draft him?
It's exactly what you're talking about. It's what is your appetite for risk? And I really think he's going to end up with the Miami Dolphins because the Dolphins are in a position where they almost have to take this risk. They have to assume this. But I do think that Tua comes with significant risk. I think Tua Tagovailoa is the highest risk versus reward pick we've seen in probably a decade.
Totally agree. Yep.
I think the upside is absolutely there. What he's done on film has been incredible. I mean, his season was not that far removed from Joe Burrow's last year, and yet he couldn't complete it. And that's the part of the problem that I think is where the risk comes in. And it's not just the hip. It's both ankles had surgery in the last 3 years. You know, he did break a finger. His knee was bothering him at times before this hip injury. So he has been plagued with injuries. But I think in today's game where you don't have to commit $50 and $60 million to a first-round NFL quarterback pick, it's worth it. So I think from that standpoint, I'd say, you know what? Even if we get a healthy quarterback, it's going to be a 50% proposition. I mean, look at the quarterbacks who went 1 and 2 with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. Those guys didn't have any injury concerns, and neither one of them are with their same teams anymore. So what if there's risk for an injury? Take your swing at him, and if he hits, you're going to have a massive home run. And if you miss, it's not that much different than if you had somebody who was healthy and just didn't pan out.
Yeah, Danny Kanell is joining us. It's funny about this. You and I have opinions, and I don't expect people to always agree with my opinions, but I'm paid to give them. But there are times I give an opinion and I get pushback and I think, are you people crazy? So I'm supposed to believe Bill Belichick, the smartest guy in football who's manipulated players, referees, the league, coaches, everybody, doesn't have a plan. So he lets the kicker go now, who still has legs in him. He lets his 2 best linebackers go, even though he loves linebackers. He doesn't go after a Bridgewater or an Andy Dalton, although they're obviously better than what he has. And he's got 12 draft picks. He's going to get 3 compensatory draft picks next year for Brady, Collins, and Van Noy, right? So my theory on this with Belichick, it's not tanking. You can still maintain your cultural integrity. That's what last year Miami really built a nice culture without winning a bunch of games. So next year, I think he's going to move a lot of his picks in this draft to next year. He's going to have his normal picks, his compensatory picks, and next year in the draft, he's going to have 12 or 13 picks. He's going to play these quarterbacks. They're going to be below 500, but competitive. They'll be 7-9, 6-10. They'll end up with the 8th or 9th draft pick, and he's going to call the first or second team that doesn't need it. Like if the Bengals are bad with Joe Burrow and say, I'll give you 9 picks. Can I have that pick? I think he's got a complete plan, which is get rid of some guys, a kicker, a quarterbacks. Not that he got rid of Brady. It's not that he's tanking. He is maintaining integrity. But he's trying to bundle he's got 12 picks this year. He's trying to bundle them for next year with the ability to give a team 8 to 10 picks to get a top 2 pick. Am I nuts?
I don't think you're crazy. I don't. When I look at the Patriots, look, they've historically been very patient. They've historically never overpaid for players. They've been cheap, and I think that's what you're seeing in this offseason. It's no different. I don't read too much into cutting a kicker. What I do read into is if they waltz out, week 1 and it's Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer or Cody Kessler as their quarterback, then I'm saying there is no way this team is planning on making the playoffs or contending this year. This is the play for the quarterback next year.
Yes.
And there are going to be some players that will be out there that will be available. And even if you're not 3-13 or, the worst team in the NFL, at least you'll be in a position where you won't have to move up that far. Maybe you're competing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, who knows how Gardner Minshew is going to be, and they're not going to be that good. But other teams that might be in that running are all going to have the quarterback position pretty much shored up.
Yep.
Now, I do think if they go for Trevor Lawrence, there will be competition. But think of the value that the Patriots should recognize from having stability at the quarterback position for 20 years. That is something no other team has had the way they've had, and it's no coincidence. That's why they've been so successful. So I do think the only thing that I would say comes into play is what part does ego play? How much ego would Bill Belichick have to swallow to possibly have a worse season than Tom Brady would have with the Tampa Bay Bucs? But that's the only hang-up that I would have in this. And I think, again, it goes back to the patience and long-term plan. And think about the areas where Bill Belichick has been ahead of the curve, using analytics, having, scouting, advanced scouts, advanced analytics, being ahead of the curve. I think this would be one more area where he would have the foresight to say, you know what? We can endure a season. We almost have an excuse. It's no more Brady. We don't have that many weapons. And I still think they'll be competitive enough where it doesn't look like an outright tank. And then they'll still be in a position where teams will want to move off some of those spots because their quarterbacks will already be in place.
Yeah, and remember this. Bill knows he's going to be in competition next year. But if he walks into the draft with 15 picks, he's the only guy that can give up 10. So if I'm Cincinnati and I'm bad and have the number 1 pick with Burrow, it doesn't matter if I hate Belichick. If everybody else can offer 6 and he can offer 10, you're taking New England's offer. So I think Bill's going to load up next year's draft with, this year they've got 12. I think he's going to move several to next year, and then the compensatory picks for Brady, Collins, and Van Noy. Bill knows it is a race to get Justin Fields or Trevor. He's going to have the most ammo. He's going to have 15 picks. And let's be honest, if you get Trevor Lawrence, you don't need the other 14. Because you're not paying Trevor, by the way, because you can go into the free agent market because you won't be paying your quarterback anything. I don't know. I think it's obvious. Either Bill's an idiot or he's got a plan. I think I know which side I would take, given those two options. Danny Kanell, by the way, love to have him on. Stick around, by the way, over the next month, because we're going to have you on as much as we possibly can, Danny, before the draft. Thank you.
I love it, Colin. Great catching up.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.